the more I get subjected to the things I'm getting hit with, the ad hominems and this false fact checking by hoodie people, young men in hoodies and etc. It's hard for me not to get a little radicalized and a lot more sympathetic. I'm personally, I've become very aware of how tenuous our ability to exercise these fundamental rights that I always assumed was bedrock. And in my profession, to have faith in professional societies and publications, when you see demonstrably false information coming out of the CDC in terms of the adolescent cardiotoxicity risks and the assessment of that, and every major medical association in the United States is in lockstep right behind them. That's, you ought to have some dissent there. None. So this journalist that I was referring to that is down in Atlanta, former CNN person, is the one saying that I should stop using the term regulatory capture and call it regulatory corruption. That what we've really got here is we're seeing it play out on the world stage, this insidious corruption that we've allowed to happen. The Atlantic article on the FDA that just came out, and how the reliability and integrity of the FDA has deteriorated over the last couple of decades. I'm to the point where I don't know what we can rely on anymore and what we can't. There doesn't seem to be any arbiter of truth that is committed to scientific integrity and transparency. And it's like a free fall. I don't know where the bottom is. How far are we willing to fall? How corrupt are we willing to be? How far are we willing to stray from evidence-based medicine and honesty to the public? I'm worried about the new data coming out about Delta and infectivity and in previously vaccinated individuals, but I'm way more worried about what does all this mean going forward for the rest of my life and for my children's lives.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we have covered a lot, Dr. Malone. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else that we missed that you wanted to say?
So I thank you for that open-ended question. And I was asked this by a journalist in Stockholm a couple days ago, and her podcast has just been posted. I don't think that it's helpful for us to fight with each other. I really think that if we can drop the rhetoric a bit and try not to go into our foxholes, which is easy to do, and we do it again and again, and a case can be made that the media likes to put us into foxholes. They love this us versus them, pro-science, anti-science, pro-vax. I'm now being labeled as an anti-vaxxer. I find this amazing. 30 years in of spending my career developing vaccines, and I'm an anti-vaxxer. Yeah, that makes sense. So we have a tendency to go into our foxholes, and the media drives us there because they love a fight. And I think somehow we need to not give it to them. Mm-hmm. We need to come together somehow. And if there's a silver lining here, it's, I think, embodied by this comment that Glenn Beck stated at the end of our third consecutive interview, which is I'm told, unprecedented. And he said, Robert, I've really enjoyed this time with you in talking, and particularly because you haven't brought politics into it at all. If we can, if we could use this space, this topic area as a community of Americans to be a starting point to say, hey, what really makes us Americans? What is it that we really want? Do we still believe in these things of freedom of speech and personal rights? Or are we good to go with a Chinese model because it'll give us more goodies? Is that where we're willing to go? For me, I'd rather live more simply and close to the ground and have less goodies and be able to speak my mind and think my own thoughts. Is that a conservative ideal? Is that fundamentally, if you go back in history, that is fundamentally a liberal idea. I usually have as my background for standard Skype, maybe this is no longer politically correct, Thomas Jefferson's Monticello is just down the road from here. And I have a high level view of Monticello, but the original idea, the Jeffersonian idea, was of citizen politicians that, were a little more in touch with the land and with the people, and not these long-term professional DC denizens that we have. And, K Street is often thrown around as the embodiment of the worst of the worst. So that's my parting thought is, if we can, I think the way out of the woods is we need to try to be nice to each other, listen to each other. This is like, Rodney King, can't we all get along?
Right.
And I feel like I'm channeling that, but this is not a time for division. This is a time to come together and focus on how do we protect ourselves and particularly our children.
Right.
And that's where I'm at is okay, whatever, if the whole Congress is paid for by Pfizer, can't we at least agree that we got to be really careful about what we do with our kids?
Yes.
And about people of reproductive age.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a great way to end it. I love those thoughts, and I am completely on the same page as far as that goes. Well, thank you, Dr. Malone. I really appreciate your time, and I'll keep you updated on what I do with this. I imagine I'm going to have to cut it up a bit because it is a bit long, but I'll let you know what I do with it. And I so appreciate your time. Thank you so much.